Khan, and oh,
So
thank you.
is it okay if I
That
record?
is wonderful. Hamza, you got my back here, alhamdulillah. You kidding me? So many people, that's going to be the main question, even throughout our presentation. Are you recording this? Are we going to get your slides? Said, alhamdulillah. Thank you for doing that. All right, well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you guys see my shared screen?
Yep.
Here we are together, joined for College Applications Demystified. We are so honored to have Brother Hamzah Henshaw here. And as a mother of a 10th grader and 9th grader and 2nd grader, I am very interested in what Brother Hamzah is going to be presenting, mashallah. He and I have had the privilege of meeting in person at an ISLA leadership retreat. And since so many of you are parents and students and may not actually be familiar with the Islamic Schools League of America, I actually want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about our organization before I pass the microphone over to Brother Hamzah. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I am the executive director of the Islamic Schools League of America. We are a nonprofit that's actually been around, mashallah, for 25 years now, back way before you guys, many of you students were born. And maybe when some of your parents will remember when the internet was becoming like a more common thing. Now I sound like a dinosaur, but it's true. Like listservs and connecting with each other on the global World Wide Web was like such a big deal. To our high schoolers here, like, did you know that we had to like dial in to the internet and it would like take the phone line, which you might not even know what a phone line is for a house because you only have cell phones, and it would occupy the phone line. That's how we would dial online and connect to the internet. And there were listservs, email listservs, where you would connect with other people. And that's one of the things that ISLA did in the beginning, was we had a listserv for Islamic school principals and educators, and it still continues today, along with WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and Instagram and stuff. We connect over 300 full-time Islamic schools all over the United States. And mashallah, there's about 50,000, we estimate there's about 50,000 students in these Islamic schools across the country. In our email listserv itself, there's over 1,000 email educational professionals. And then our broader network is over 5,000 individuals. And we do a lot of work related to this kind of like bringing resources, information to you to address sometimes gaps in Islamic schools. Like there are a lot of Islamic schools that might not have a college counselor, or even just maybe there are some parents who didn't go through the application process here in the United States, and so they want to help their children, whether they're in public or private school. And so we try and do a lot of programming that benefits Islamic school educators, usually first and foremost principals and teachers, and then also sometimes parents and students. And so we're so happy to have you guys here with us, many parents and students here. Really quickly want to share a few of the other kinds of programs that we do, just in sharing with you some of our upcoming events. So if you are a teacher joining us, and this is open to anyone, whether you're in private school or public school, charter, whatever you do, if you're an educator who wants to know how to write more effective emails, this webinar is for you next Wednesday at the same time. And attendees will be receiving a professional development or continuing education hours certificate from our provider and our partner, Archangel. So we partner with other organizations and individuals like Brother Hamzah who are experts in their field to bring you this really important information. So invite you to do that. I'll paste the links to join in the email, in the chat, sorry. And then we have a leadership retreat coming up. This is for, again, principals, admin, counselors, teachers to join us December 1st through 3rd at Diyanet Center. If you haven't been there before, it's really beautiful. It's an Ottoman style mosque in the 30 minutes outside of DC. We're going to be talking about how we can do a better job at our Islamic schools with health and sex education, and inshallah look at ways of how to incorporate that in a very grounded, Islamically grounded worldview, and inshallah address the questions and gaps in the curriculum that we have in our schools today. And actually, a lot of our students, we do research as well. So we talked to alumni of Islamic schools and they said, the Islamic schools need to be doing this better. So we always try and have research inform our programming. And then tomorrow we have an administrators meeting. So if you are an administrator joining us, or if you are connected to an administrator, please send this information to them. We share a lot of information on how Islamic schools can get more funding from the federal and state government and other sources. I'm going to be sharing out about some conferences I attended in DC last week and some other research reporting that we have been doing. So that's it from me. Let us get to the reason why you guys are here. I know some of you might have Maghrib come in, just step away and then come right back, inshallah. We will record and share the recording as well as slides. Brother Hamzah, thank you so much for joining us. About Brother Hamzah, our presenter for today, Hamzah Henshaw was born and raised in Boston, graduated from Harvard College in 2000 something here, not in
2001.
2001, where he concentrated in Near Eastern languages and civilizations with a minor in economics. He's edited travel guides and he pursued Arabic studies in Cairo in 2005. He earned a master's in TESOL, and TESOL is teaching English as a second language. In 2010, Hamzah began his career in Islamic finance and transitioned to education in 2003. MashaAllah, his diverse teaching experiences range from the US to the UAE, South Africa, and Morocco. I'm learning so much about you, Hamzah. I want to sit down and just talk about your world travels. He joined Al Noor Academy in 2013, where he served as Dean of Students and Humanities. And Hamzah, you're going to update us on your new title. Taught English, oversaw the dual enrollment program, and I think continues now to offer college guidance. Hamzah resides in Mansfield, Massachusetts, with his wife, Rahina, and their two children, Sumaya and Ilyas. Hamzah, I pass the mic over to you and let us know again about your new title and take us into this demystifying college applications for our parents and students here.
Okay, inshallah. I'm going to switch over to my slides. Bismillah.
And as you're doing that, Hamzah, again, just an invitation, everybody, put your name in the chat. And
I actually have that built in.
Oh, then I'll let you do it, Hamzah.
You sort of already taken my thunder, but I appreciate it.
No, I stepped
back.
But
a lot of new people have joined since we started, so we can do a little bit more. So yeah, assalamu alaikum, everyone. So welcome to College Applications Demystified, Insights for Islamic Schools, Students, and Counselors. So before we begin, one of my teachers talks about doing conscious Bismillah. So obviously we're here to learn about college, which is, somewhat of a dunyawi type thing, but we have to remember our ultimate intention is to please Allah. So just take a moment to say Bismillah. Okay, inshallah. So yeah, this is where I wanted to see who was with us today. So I know a lot of you already did this, but if you can just quickly sort of drop in the chat where you are joining us from, city and state, or unless we have overseas people. So let's see. We have Austin, Texas. Wow, it's coming in fast and furious. I can't keep up. Wow, Maryland, Dallas, Georgia, Massachusetts, Florida, mashallah, California, a lot of Texas, mashallah. That's exciting.
All right, Texas, represent.
Yeah, mashallah. That's looking good. And Michigan, mashallah. So we have pretty much the whole country. We have like every time zone. Very exciting. And then I think Dr. Shaza did this in the beginning, but please just type in whether you're a parent, an administrator, or like Islamic school worker, or a student. Let's see. Get all these students. You got a principal, parent, and student. Ooh, that's an interesting mix. Mashallah. So it looks like a big mixture of people, not as many actual Islamic school counselors and things. Mashallah. Great to have you. I tried to cater this to all three categories. So hopefully there will be good stuff for everyone. And finally, if you're a parent, what grade are your children in? If you're a student, what grade are you in? and there aren't too many administrators, but what kind of school is it? Is it K through 8, K through 12, that sort of thing? So let's see. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of people in high school, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Ooh, 4th grade, mashallah, starting early. Okay, that totally makes sense. So a lot of high school students and so on. All right, that looks good. Alhamdulillah. So it's good for me to know how we're here to make sure to cater to the needs. So Dr. Shahza already sort of mentioned a few things about me. Alhamdulillah, I accepted Islam back in 1994 at the age of 15. I was going to a boarding school, private school outside of Boston, and Alhamdulillah, embraced Islam. That's a story for another day. I graduated in Harvard in 2001, from Harvard in 2001 with a degree in Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. I transitioned after a brief little flirtation with Islamic finance into education. So I have more than 20 years of experience as an educator, and the last 11 at New England's first full-time Islamic K through 12 school. So as Dr. Shahza sort of alluded, I need to update my bio. I have been working there full-time for the last 10 years. This year, I am just part-time. I'm just serving as the guidance counselor because, as I'll mention, I've started my own company and college consulting business of my own. So anyway, I've helped place hundreds of Muslims in many of the country's top colleges. I have a very I won't say very popular, a popular, inshallah, growing newsletter on Substack called 5 Before 5. Inshallah, these slides will be sent out and they have hyperlinks and everything, and I'd love to get more subscribers. I try to share good insights every Friday. And then I founded this company 5 Before College to help Muslims maximize the return of investment, of their college investment in this world and the next. So it's really a heart-centered, akhirah-focused college consulting business. So I hope will come through as we continue to talk. So let's talk, and inshallah, there will be time at the end for Q&A. And so try to, gather your questions. Obviously, you can put them in the chat, but I'm going to try to power through the slides to make sure to get time at the end for that. So 3 college admission secrets. So first, start early. Where does the name 5 Before College come from? One reason is because it's in order to apply to college and to be successful in the process, you can't start thinking about it just your 11th and 12th grade year. If you're an 11th or 12th grader, don't feel bad. Inshallah, we can still help, right? But the ideal situation, especially for parents if they have younger children, is to really start thinking about college well before college. And the ideal time for me is 5 years before college, which brings us way back to 8th grade. And I'll talk more later in the thing why I'm saying 8th grade even before 9th grade. The second thing, genuinely interesting accomplishments are generated only by living a genuinely interesting life. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what goes into making a compelling college candidate, but ultimately it's your interestingness, right? How much would that admissions person, would they like to go out for a cup of coffee with you? Do you have an interesting point of view and perspective on the world? Have you done things that make you stand out from the crowd? Do you feel like someone who really knows themselves and has a good sense of themselves? Those are the things that are going to really help you stand out from the crowd, not just a laundry list of tons of different activities and things like that. And finally, it is very important to write an unforgettable college essay, which is something we'll talk more about. So let's start back at the beginning. So you can't really understand how to you can't understand how to excel in college admissions without first exploring how to excel in high school, right? So I created something that I call the 5 Before College framework. So I said there are 2 reasons for the company to be called 5 Before College. One is about starting early, 5 years before college. And the second is because, of course, there's the famous 5 Before 5 hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ said, take benefit of 5 before 5, your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. So mashallah, the Prophet ﷺ was blessed with the jawami al-kalim, the ability to express incredibly deep meanings in very, very few words. So you could write, I mean, my entire newsletter is sort of devoted to exploring this hadith in one form or fashion. There's a lot of depth here. But what I tried to do was to take the prophetic guidance and map it onto the high school career and the college application process. So what is to take, and obviously this is my sharh or something, this is not a scholarly opinion or anything, this is just ideas that I find very helpful. So youth before old age, how does that show up? How do you take advantage of your youth? So this is where I put in the academics. There's no getting around the fact that academics are critically important. The single most important document when you're applying to college is your transcript, the cold, hard facts of your grades, and equally important to your grades, the classes that you took, the rigor of those classes. Were you taking the most challenging courses offered by your school? Were you taking AP classes? Are you doing an IB curriculum? Are you taking dual enrollment classes, or are you mostly in the other sections? So your academics are important. We can't get around it. The key to good academics is reading, and I have a couple slides coming up about reading, so I won't talk too much more about it, but it's the single best predictor. If you show me a sixth grader who reads 3 books a week, I can tell you that sixth grader is going to be incredibly successful as a high school student. They're going to breeze through the college admissions process. If you show me someone who's completely allergic to reading and so on, they're going to struggle quite a bit more. So reading is incredibly important. What does it mean to take advantage of your health before your sickness? This is where I lump in athletics and wellness and mental health, right? So with athletics, I think that a lot of Islamic schools don't do as good a job as we should, catering to the sports needs of our students. I was so happy when I was in Texas for the ISLA retreat last year. We got to visit the Islamic School of Irvine, and I know, mashallah, shout out to the people who are here from there. And I was blown away by this amazing gym that you have. And apparently you'd had like an alumni versus seniors basketball game, and the whole school had come out the night before, and you play other schools in the area. And I was like, subhanallah, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. But unfortunately, that's not the case at many Islamic schools. Many Islamic schools do not have interscholastic sports, and sports was such a huge part of my life going to boarding school. I played football, I played basketball, I played squash, I played tennis, and these were incredibly formative things, and it's so important for Muslims to get involved in athletics. And then wellness, this is, again, we need to focus on mental health and just having our baseline. The pandemic made things so difficult for the youth, and we see all sorts of issues of anxiety and depression and other challenges, and it's almost impossible to perform at your best if you're struggling with that. So again, this is something that Islamic schools can do a better job of having counselors on staff and really providing for those needs. Wealth before poverty. In order to really excel in this process, you need to start exploring your careers while you're still in high school. You can do this through internships. You can do this through various, competitive summer programs. You can do this through shadowing professionals. MashaAllah, the Muslim community in America is a very well-educated, well-connected community. Your parents know people who know people, and you can really get connected early on and start exploring possible things. And then scholarships and saving money, right? If anything's going to cause you poverty, it's the cost of college. And I know that's a huge concern for lots of families, but there are ways, to maximize, the amount of money you're getting from colleges, the merit-based scholarships, and so on. So there's a lot to be said there. And your free time before your business. This is where your extracurriculars and what you do outside of school, what you do outside of your academic classes come in. And the other thing that we usually do with our free time is spend time with our friends. They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So we need to look at and do an audit of our suhbah and who are those people. We need to do an audit of our free time. If we find that we're on TikTok for 3 hours a day, then we're probably not maximizing the use of our time. And there's something that we, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. And then finally, take advantage of your life before your death. This is where I put all the things about our dini pursuits, our Islam, our faith, and our akhlaq, our character, that we all want to have the character of the Prophet ﷺ. If Muslims genuinely took the message of Islam and lived the message of Islam, colleges would be, fighting each other to get Muslims on their campus. And so, and alhamdulillah, there are many Muslim teenagers who do embody these things, and sure enough, colleges are fighting each other for them. Okay, so I said I'd talk a little bit more about reading. So I can't emphasize this enough. I am an English teacher, so maybe I'm biased, but I'm pretty confident in this. Okay, so the very first word of the Quran, as we all know, is iqra, read, right? So and this is just one of the most important things we can do. So there was this tweet that came out a couple of years ago that I really liked. We pay my oldest $1 every time he reads a book. We're talking 160-page chapter books. I'm out $120 this year, and he thinks he's ripping me off. Best investment ever, right? So this is something to consider with your kids. The bribery sometimes works. But subhanallah, $120 out in a year, that kid is off to the races, mashallah. So how do you actually encourage kids to read? One app that I discovered during the pandemic that I didn't know existed was Libby. If anyone's ever used Libby, can you just mention that in the chat if you have any idea what I'm talking about? But essentially, Libby is something that is through your local public library, and it gives you access to ebooks and audiobooks and just pretty much whatever's in digitally available through your library. It's amazing. Especially for me, audiobooks are great. I love walking. I try to build in an hour and a half to 2 hours of walking every day. And obviously, getting books on Audible and things like that can be a little pricey. This is an amazing way. You request the book. If it's not currently available, they'll say there's a 3-week wait for this. Eventually it will come, and you'll constantly have things to read. Same thing with on your Kindle or other e-reader. It's amazing. And then the other life hack that I've done in the last year or so is every time someone mentions a book and sort of talks it up and it piques my interest, I go onto eBay, which I hadn't used in like 10 years before that, and I Google it, and usually those books are available for less than $5, unless they're a very recent thing. But many of the books that people are recommending are less than $5. So this is just a sampling of books that I've bought in the last year. And it's been amazing. I have, like, you can probably see behind me, I have quite a lot of books. But this whole shelf over here is all books that I bought within the last year, all on the subjects that I'm currently really interested in. And it's just an amazing thing. Investing in your children is incredibly beneficial. I will never say no to my kids if they want to buy a book. I know everyone's budget is a little bit different, but if there's one thing we should make time for, it's this. However, the sad reality with books, 33% of high school graduates never read another book the rest of their lives. 42% of college grads never read another book. 57% of new books are not read to completion. 70% of adults have not been to a bookstore in the last 5 years. That's like my favorite thing to do on vacation, probably much to my family's chagrin. 80% of US families did not buy or read a book last year. And finally, the more a child reads, the likelier they are able to understand the emotions of others. So I know this is supposed to be at college, but I'm telling you, the link between reading and college is immense. And if that's the only thing you take away from it, then alhamdulillah. Sorry, let me just check in the chat. Okay, alhamdulillah. Looks like there's some lively discussion going on there. We'll look at it more later. All right.
So well, you do have I'm sorry, that was me, like, absolute, like, mind blown, but you do have a good question here, Hamzah.
Okay.
How can one encourage their child to read more if their child's not interested in reading? Or, like, I had kids who were super duper excited, and now I don't know if he's on. I told him to join, but now they're like not as much on. Don't read as much because they got their phones.
Right. Right. So my saying is read what you love until you love what you read, until you love to read, right? Read what you love. So don't force feed them to read the classics or read particular things. Just encourage them to read, period. So if they're really into Minecraft, read all the Minecraft, read all the Dogman books you want, read. So it's not so much exactly what you read, it's developing the habit of reading. And everyone's interested in something, right? You know, let's say they're fascinated by TikTok. Why not read a lot about, understand TikTok, understand, you know, the background of it, and so on. And it doesn't need to only be books, right? You can be reading, you know, the internet has a lot of high quality newsletters, high quality articles, you know, websites. So, you know, I would say more than 50% of my reading is not of the you know, book official variety, but just, you know, be showing curiosity and so on, and also modeling. It's one thing for parents to tell their kids to read, but are the parents reading themselves, or are the parents the ones on their phones as well, right? And I'm glad my kids aren't right here, because they'll remind me that I am often on my phone as well. So I'm not putting myself on a pedestal here. Okay. So speaking of books, you know, if you want to do the eBay hack, then maybe I'm not going to get a commission from this, but this is a great book, How to Be a High School Superstar. I actually am just reading this book with my juniors at Alnora right now. It's an amazing book written by this guy, Cal Newport, back when he was much younger. He's gone on to a really interesting career. He has a great podcast called Deep Work, a really amazing thinker and a great person. He's written quite a lot of books, actually, early in his life. About how to sort of master high school and college and so on. But this one's great, How to Be a High School Superstar. So in it, he talks about different things. One thing that he talks about is the law of underscheduling, right? That many kids, especially when the parents are aiming high for college and so on, they make the mistake of just packing their kids' schedules full. So they finish school, and then they go to soccer, and then they go to the piano, and then they go to, you know, tutoring and so on. And the kid never has any time to breathe, never has any time to develop authentic interests of their own. So what he suggests is build ample free time into your schedule. You know, pack like unstructured time. Now, obviously, the caveat is that doesn't mean, you know, time for social media scrolling or Netflixing. It's for actually pursuing interests, passions that you actually have, right? And embrace your weird. They say that the things that make you weird when you're in high school are the things that will make you incredibly successful later in your life, right? So every kid has something that's a little strange. They're a little self-conscious about it. They might try to hide it. Embrace your weird. If the brother who introduced me to Islam, not that Islam is weird, but if he hadn't like put his feet in the sink and hadn't, you know, called the adhan out loud and done these very unusual, strange things, who knows, you know, where I would be today, right? He was totally unapologetic in the way he practiced Islam, living in a dorm, and there were kids who gave him a hard time and made fun of him, but ultimately we were really impressed by his commitment to you know, his faith. And eventually, alhamdulillah, we ended up becoming, three of us ended up becoming Muslim. So embrace your weird, embrace what makes you different. Craft compelling failed experiments. So school teaches us that the worst thing in the world is failure. If you get an F on a test or a grade, nothing worse could happen in your life. And yet, one of the big questions on the college application is like, share a failure that you had and what you learned from it. So there's this disconnect here. School's telling us you can never fail, failing so bad, but then life is telling us, you know, a successful life is about collecting failures, right? And so, yeah, I'm not suggesting that you try to fail classes and, you know, say, hey, that's what my college counselor said. No, that's not the message here. But do try. If you don't try things, right, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything. There's a story in this book about this girl who started a web hosting company when she was in 9th grade. And she very quickly got in over her head. She suddenly had 800 clients. She was taking customer calls during class, running to the bathroom to deal with things. The server broke down and people lost all their data. And it was a total failure. But it was an amazing college essay that she got to write about running this internet company, and she started a blog and had 35,000 readers a month, and it was just an incredible experience. So this failure led to enormous success down the road. The laundry list fallacy, again, this idea that if we just pack our schedule with tons and tons of different activities and so on, right? Instead, consistency and depth trumps a jack of all trades. So colleges are not really looking for well-rounded people with a little bit of everything. They're really looking for pointy people who have gone really deep in one or two things that they're really passionate about. And this is consistent with the hadith of the Rasulullah who says, take on only as much as you can do of good deeds, for the best of deeds is that which is done consistently, even if it is little, right? So showing up day after day, with your passion, if you get 1% better every day, it's amazing what you can accomplish over the course of high school. So now let's get into sort of a timeline. So this is, Five Before College. So we want to, talk about these 5 years before college. So even before that, birth, okay? Or when you get the good news that you're going to have a baby, start a college fund. That's the advice for parents. Even if it's very, very small, even if you're putting aside, $20, $50 a month, it's amazing if you, put it into invest it and put it in the stock market, it will grow. 18 years is a long time for something like that to happen. Hamza, that's one of the reasons I've been able to work at an Islamic school until recently was that my parents did this. They started a college fund for my kids right when they were born. And that's taken a lot of the pressure off me and allowed me to work in a career that is incredibly rewarding, but not particularly lucrative, as we all know. So trying to start that soon, no matter how small, is incredibly important. In elementary school, for those, I saw there was a fourth grader, a parent of a fourth grader here, read to your children, right? Mashallah, my wife, ever since my kids were born, I feel like has read them to sleep on a nightly basis, mashallah. And it's just an incredible way to put that love of reading. That's another way to get kids to love to read. And middle school, just really try to foster the love of learning, right? And of course, always put the dean first and so on in what you show them. But then when we get to the later years, what should you do? So I tried to break it up into academic things, extracurricular things, and college things. So in 8th grade, read widely. You're building your study habits. Okay, in 8th grade, you're at the top of the food chain, right? If you go to a regular K-8 school, you're the big man on campus, right? So very soon you're going to be at the bottom of the food chain when you become a 9th grader. So take advantage of that to learn leadership, right? A lot of Islamic schools are K-8 schools. 8th grade is the top. So this is the time to learn how to be a leader, learn how to join a club, lead a club, start a club, study soft skills like how to negotiate and things like that. And then in terms of the college focus thing, one of the biggest decision you're making in 8th grade is, where am I going to go to high school? Okay, am I going to go to the local public school? Am I going to be going to an Islamic school? Am I going to be going to another like parochial school, Catholic school, or a private school, right? These are really, really big decisions, that you really need to think about at that point. 9th grade, now you've chosen your school. We're building up an academic foundation and then shoring up weaknesses. Oftentimes, it's, not every student is like robo student, right? It's totally okay to have certain subject areas that are not as strong, but this is the time, you have to have that growth mindset and not tell yourself things like, I'm bad at math. I'm just, khalas, I'm bad at math. That's just the reality. That's not true, right? That's self-talk that you're convincing yourself, and it's sort of, you're giving yourself an out from actually putting the effort in to become good at math. So work on that. Try to join at least one school club and start one sort of extracurricular. Start exploring these sorts of things at the base level, and then really seek mentorship of older students. And I would say, if there are school administrators here, really pair some of those older students with the younger students. Big brother, big sister programs are incredibly beneficial if done right. 10th grade, that's when you usually take the PSAT for the first time. That's the pre-SAT. It's sort of like you know, to give you a sense of it, you take it officially in 11th grade fall, but most, you know, college counselors would suggest taking it for the first time in 10th grade. That will give you sort of a baseline of where you're at with standardized testing. Although we can have a whole discussion about standardized testing and how things have changed later if you'd like. Try to get into some honors classes, as many as you can. Start looking for leadership roles within those clubs that you joined. Start researching summer programs. Your summer and how you spend those summers are incredibly important. And, you know, it doesn't, you know, there's not one size fits all for what you do in the summer, but essentially if you're exploring those authentic interests, and then start to think about what you might want to major in college, just start, you know, have those ideas percolating. It's not, you know, and so on. 11th grade, that's the year to get your SATs done, right? You know, if you go to a high level, high dollar college counselor, they will tell you, with, you know, full stop, you want to be done with all your standardized testing by the end of 11th grade year. You don't want to be doing that in your senior fall. Does that mean if you're still taking them in the senior fall that everything's over? No, of course not. But ideally, best case scenario, again, if you still have time to do this, try to get that done early so that you don't need to worry about it and you can focus on applying to college and on doing well in your very challenging course load your senior year. Try to take some APs if your school offers an IB program, which I don't know how many Muslim schools offer IBs, but that's International Baccalaureate, amazing program, or dual enrollment. This is a great time to start some sort of personal passion project, right? Something tangible, like a blog, like that sister began, or small business, you know, some sort of small business venture that you're doing, or you know, creating an art show. Or we had a student who created a TED Talk. They brought they created the platform for us to host a TEDx event. Right, these are amazing things to do. Get involved in internships and so on. And then college, this is the time to really visit colleges. One of my sweetest memories I have with my father was going around during spring break of my junior year and visiting a whole bunch of different colleges up and down the East Coast. It's like a great time to bond and so on. And building your college list, right? By the time you leave at the end of junior year for your summer, you should have a pretty good sense after talking to your guidance counselor, to your maybe someone like me, or you know, and so on, a pretty good list of, you know, which schools am I going to apply to, which are the sort of reach schools, which are the match schools, which are the safety schools. You know, you have a pretty good sense of what your profile looks like by the end of 11th grade. 12th grade, just keep up with your rigorous schedule. You know, they will look at those classes that you take, but don't feel like you have to take 5 APs. I can't tell you how many people I've met recently who are taking 5 or even more APs. It's like you just can burn yourself out. Like you need to give yourself a break. You don't need, colleges are not going to be like, oh, that kid took 4 and he took 5, therefore it's not like that. Be interesting, not like just laundry list of crazy classes. Finish that passion project, really get it to be something that you can really talk about. And then obviously you have to actually apply to college, and then there's financial aid, and then there's the whole decision making process. I know that was a lot. For people who want even more, there's a very detailed timeline by another college counselor that's linked here that really goes in on a month-by-month basis of what you want to do. So if you're an older student, I encourage you to check that out. How are we doing on time? What can a college essay do for you? So these are just 3 college essays that students have written over the years. This one was written by a good friend of mine, actually, named Hafiz Nail. So he studied and became a Hafiz at a place in South Africa, at a madrasa in South Africa. And while he was there, he was also reading Harry Potter, which was actually forbidden at his madrasa. So he had to read under the covers with like a flashlight, right? And so he wrote this amazing essay, where he was drawing comparisons between Hogwarts and the madrasa and so on. It was just very, very memorable. So memorable, in fact, that mashallah, he was a spectacular student. And but essentially he was, one day in 12th grade, he got a phone call, And he said, yes. And they said, this is the Yale admissions office. We have someone who would like to speak with you. And he said, okay. And then the president of Mexico was visiting Yale that day. And so they recruited the president of Mexico to call him up to try to get him to come to Yale. But alhamdulillah, went to Harvard. So anyway, this next one was a great essay written by one of my students from last year. He actually got kicked out of school when he was in middle school, and then went to public school for 9th and 10th grade, had like a serious epiphany about taking education seriously, came back to school, our school, as a junior, and just like knocked it out of the park, started getting straight A's. And mashallah, he got into several Ivy League schools, and currently he's at Dartmouth. So another really exciting story. This one, do you think we have time to read one little essay, or should we?
I think people would really like that, Hamzah.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you there, do you want to put the links here, or when we send the slide deck, then that'll be whatever is easiest for you to kind of navigate, since I don't have that.
Yeah. There's a link coming up that I want to share,
Okay,
which is like an actual download of a bunch of these essays, and
awesome.
rather than like inundating the thing with links, but definitely you can send the slide deck out with all the links. All right, so this is an essay by a student named Dina, who Hamda is actually working now with FiveBeforeCollege. She's like a fellow coach, and we're co-teaching a class right now. She, alhamdulillah, ended up going to MIT and just finished her master's from MIT. But she was a really, really impressive writer and so on. And so this was a supplement, not a main college essay. And the question was, if you had the opportunity to create your own college course, what enduring question or contemporary problem would you address, and why? So she begins. I'm interested in math and history and technology and diplomacy and a myriad of nerdy things, any of which I could write volumes and lecture for years about. But one of my greatest interests is pizza. It is everything I love and all I've ever wanted to be. After thinking for weeks about this question, I finally figured it out. If given a room full of bright young students, I'd teach them about pizza. The ingredients required to make a pizza are only acquirable because of a complex system of international trade that took centuries to develop and that continues to evolve with technology. Its unique shape and shareability make it an example in every math class, from fractions to cylinders. Pizza never makes people fight, except maybe for the last slice, because if two parties want different toppings, they simply get a half and half. Pizza is math and history and technology and diplomacy and a myriad of nerdy things, any of which I could consume boxes of. In a world where you must be cheese or veggie, pizza dares to be both. It dares to be proudly indecisive and deliciously different. It invites pineapples and Parmesan to the same table, despite their differences. It refuses to have only one topping because it is complex, and it is beautiful, despite being confused. It is short-lived, but makes an impact on all it encounters. It is the epitome of human ingenuity and collaboration. My students and I would look at the world around us and answer the question of how can we work together, collect and combine the best and most delicious parts of ourselves to make something as wonderful and harmonious as pizza. I tell them that unfortunately we live in a world where cheese and tomatoes are not proportionately represented. Our pizza has grown dry because cheese was born on top of tomatoes and has largely used its recognition to keep it that way, forgetting that mozzarella means nothing without marinara. We'd think critically about how to find a tasty balance both within ourselves and in our communities. We'd make America delicious again. At the end of the term, we would have a pizza party, but that part would just be for fun. So, mashallah, if there's anything I know about Dina, like this, she wrote from the heart, because even now her WhatsApp profile picture is a pizza, right? So you ask people, talk about your passions, right? And yeah, I'm not passionate about anything. All I like is pizza and French fries. This is a whole essay, like an award-winning essay about pizza, right? So when they tell you follow your passions, no matter how weird or unusual they are, like most people see an essay like this and they have this highfalutin, like big picture thing that they're going to talk about, how they're going to change the world, and it just comes off as hollow. And they're like, the admissions officer's like, you're 17, get over yourself, right? This is like very honest from the heart. And obviously beautifully written, and yeah. So that's just an example of what a college essay can do for you. Get the president of Mexico to call you, help you get into an Ivy League after you get kicked out, and help you get some really good pizza. So here's what I was going to share. So a lot of people, oh, actually, I have to escape from this to get it. So this one I will put in the chat. All right, so I would love it if people would click on that, and what it is it's a download. You just fill in the basic information, and then it will send to your email 5 Muslim college essays that worked. So this is, I went through my Rolodex of hundreds of people, and certainly not every kid I've ever worked with has written about Islam, but many have. Many have tried to cover it in one way or another because it's so, it's an Islamic school, it's so central to their identity. So it's a tricky thing writing about religion on an application, and it's something that I wanted to show you actual real life examples of Muslim students who did this, and Hamzah had a lot of success with it. So if you click on that link and then put your information in, then it will send you an email. There's also a mini course that I created that's linked later in this presentation, where I actually break down each of these essays in videos and so on to try to give you more insight as to why they work. Okay, I know I want to leave time for Q&A, so I'll try to get through this quickly. Who reads these college essays, these college applications anyway? So application readers are often recent alumni. Okay, so that often means that they're quite young and they're fairly liberal. That's something to just keep in mind. They have a crushing load of applications to sift through. Okay, so Northeastern, for example, back in 2019, got something like, I don't have the exact statistics, something like 50 or 55,000 applications. This year, they're probably going to get over 100,000 applications. So it's almost 100% increase over the course of a few years. And the main reason for that is that schools went test optional, right? They are no longer requiring the SAT. And as a result, many students who wouldn't have applied beforehand have started to apply, and the application numbers have skyrocketed. Okay, on the one hand, that's good, because if you're a student who struggles on the SAT, then alhamdulillah, you have a chance at some of these schools. And indeed, many of our students, that guy who's at Dartmouth, didn't submit his SAT scores, right? There are many students who are getting into schools they might not have if they had. On the other hand, the competition is enormous, and the amount of time that the admissions officers have for each application is tiny. The top people, the real decision makers, don't read many applications, if at all, depending on how they set things up. It's the sort of lower level recent alumni and application readers who read them. Essentially, what they're doing in the initial screening is they're trying to quickly get their caseload from 100,000 down to 50,000. They want to weed out the ones which really don't have much of a chance, right? And so your goal, the whole purpose of the college application, is to transform your admissions officer, the person who reads your person, from a gatekeeper who's trying to keep you out into an advocate who's going to go into their committee and fight to get you in. Right? That's the whole big picture here, right? So you have 5 years in 5 minutes. That's what I like to say. So 5 before college, we're talking about the 5 years leading up to this, leading this incredible high school career. You need to capture their attention in the 5 minutes you have in front of them with their application. It might be more like 10 minutes, but it's a very short period of time. So what do you need to cover in your application? What makes you you? Okay, you need to tell true stories. I always say true stories are like catnip for an admissions officer's souls, right? That Dina's essay about pizza, you can tell it's true, that she's not just making it up because the way it was written. And one of the exercises I just did this with the students in my masterclass last week, is a 7-word memoir. So this is where you take your whole experience and you try to boil it down to 7 words. It's an incredibly beneficial, slightly challenging thing, but if you can do this, it actually helps you. Even if you're in 10th grade right now, if you try to actually sit down and do this. So some of my favorites here are grew up in libraries, now I build them. Okay, that's like, imagine if that's the story that they're getting. If an admissions officer reads your file and that's what they get and that's what they bring to the committee, then they're going to be blown away by that. Grandma's stories of war became my peace. Okay, grew crops on family farm, now bioengineer fields. 5 daily prayers and dreams every night. Facing hardships, my faith has never dimmed. Okay, so everyone has their own story, and trying to boil it down to something really, really simple, this little soundbite of who you are is critical. I'm going to skip that. Now just let's quickly talk about this. Public schools, I just wrote an email yesterday, I discovered the statistic that most public school counselors work with an average of 315 students, right? And in terms of how much time they spend on an annual basis with their students talking about college stuff, it's 38 minutes, right? This is a dramatically different scene than what you see at most Islamic schools. Okay, by the time a student is applying to college from Al Noor, I have known them since 6th grade. I've known them for 7 years. I've taught them for 5 years. I used to teach 6th grade, 9th, 10th, and then 11th and 12th, I was their guidance counselor. So literally five years, right? We have an amazing alumni network who love to give back. One of the things we do at Al Noor is we connect each graduating senior with a recent alum who has gone through that college process, or a recent college grad, sometimes a little older, who can mentor them individually, one-on-one, help them with their essays and that sort of thing. Our students are often NSTKs, that's neat small town kids. That's exactly what admissions officers are doing. They get so many applications that look the same, from the same sort of wealthy school in the suburbs. They do the same sort of extracurriculars. So when this hijabi volleyball player comes along, with this amazing story, that stands out from the crowd, right? Our counselor letters, right? Because we know our students so well, we need to do a great job of writing a counselor letter. This is the start of my letter for Dina. I'm not going to read it or anything. But by the time Dina applied, I'd been working with her for 5 years. I was able to write a very, very specific letter. If you look at most teacher recommendation letters or counselor letters, they're generic. They're copy paste. Like they have like 5 templates and they just copy and paste the name if they remember. Right? That's a really sad state. We cannot be like that in Islamic schools. Our counselors have to have ihsan and really put the effort in to not only know the students, but then to convey it in these letters. And then of course we have the advantage of istikhara, and we have dua, and we know that where we go to school is not going to be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah and so on. So specifically, our community does have some challenges. Many parents did not go to university here in the States, and they don't really understand the nuances of this application system, right? That's why it's great that you're here at an event like this, and really why I went into this work myself, right, to help bridge that gap. There's a lack of high quality content specifically for Muslim American audiences, right? The needs of Muslim students are different. Sometimes we're more interested in the size of the MSA on campus, or do they have halal food, or do they have single-sex dorms, or whatever the case may be. The needs and the way Muslims evaluate colleges are different, so it's important to give specific information for them. And then some people have these fears about Islamophobia. Obviously, it is a reality out there, and how open can we be on our applications about our Islam and our beliefs? And the answer that I would give is, like, with hikmah, you can be definitely quite open about that. And then finally, I asked my students if they had the chance to give nasiha to their parents, what sorts of things might they tell them? Right, so these aren't exactly their words, but I tried to take their words and put them together. Sometimes I feel trapped in a cage. I wish you weren't so strict. Okay, so some Muslim parents, not all, but some, are incredibly strict. They run their households very, very strictly, and the kids feel trapped by that. It feels like all you care about are my grades. If I don't get A pluses, I feel like a failure, right? So this is, again, something I hear from students again and again, that they're not getting any sleep. They're working so hard because it feels like their parents, that's the only thing that they'll accept from them. You focus only on halal and haram. I wish you could help me understand why Islam is the truth. Okay, I had to sort of paraphrase that. That's not exactly how they put it, but essentially, they were saying that Islam for them doesn't have that same level of meaning because it's all just a bunch of do's and don'ts, and we don't really understand the depth of the religion. Why should we be doing these things? Why will you only let me consider careers in medicine and engineering? Okay, so I could give a whole presentation about this, but there are other careers out there. Okay, and it feels like Muslim parents are very much like fixated on those two particular paths, and maybe computer science now, and as if like that's where all the jobs are in the market. If you study applied math and you understand artificial intelligence and so on, there are so many jobs that are going to open up for you, and you're going to be making a lot more money, a lot sooner, if that's why you want to go into these lucrative careers. So we need to get beyond it. We need Muslim journalists, right? We need Muslim teachers. We need people who pursue all these different things, and yet everyone's tracked on the same thing. And while certainly some kids should be doctors, should be engineers, that's if that's not what your child's strengths are, and you're trying to put that square child into the round hole, it's going to cause friction, and it's a problem. And then I wish you tried to understand my world and didn't compare everything to how things were when you grew up, right? So a lot of times there's that cultural disconnect. The parent grew up overseas. They're always telling them back in my day, and so on. And that's understandable. We do have a lot to learn from our parents, and so on. But it's important that you make some effort to get into your child's world and so on. These are just some of the services. I won't dwell on this that FiveBeforeCollege can offer. We have a WhatsApp group that has, I don't know, 800, 900 people in it at this point, where we share lots of high quality information, although we are getting close to the upper limit of it. I write that newsletter. It's not always college related, but a lot of times it's college education related. That we also, if you signed up for that download, you get onto our email list. And we send out emails every Monday and Thursday with just different college tips and things like that. We have free mini courses, like I was mentioning. I'm a little hesitant about this, but I'd love to start a podcast, and I've been told by my students that I have to start a TikTok if I want a successful business. So I've been working on it, but inshallah, we'll see how it goes. In terms of like the middle tier, value tier, we do group coaching masterclasses. I think some of my students are actually here. So right now, every Wednesday, we're doing a class about writing early applications and writing college essays, and we'll do a lot more going forward. We can do virtual workshops and counselor training like this. So if you have a community that you'd like you think they could benefit from this kind of talk, you can bring us in virtually. And then inshallah, we're going to create asynchronous classes that, so people who can't just do the live courses can go and get that high quality information. And then on the premium tier, one-on-one coaching, obviously there's nothing better than that. Currently, there's myself and Sister Dina, the pizza girl, who you can book time with. And then also, we are able to travel and do in-person events at Islamic schools or masjids, workshops, training, whatever the needs of the community are, and so on. And then one final thought, I talk about college all the time, and I think it's really, really important to take a step back. It does not matter where you go to college. Okay, it really, like, I know that's the worst thing for a college counselor to say, but it really doesn't. Like, and we put so much emphasis on this elitism and Ivy or bust and so on, and I'm a product of that. My own father used to just, like, he went to Harvard and he took me to Harvard campus all the time, and it was like pushed down my throat, and I felt the same way that so many students feel. But oftentimes applying to college brings out the worst in us as humans, right? But it doesn't have to be that way, right? Ajaba li amr al-mu'min, amazed by the matter of the mu'min. If something if something good happens, they give shukr and Allah rewards them. If something bad happens, they make sabr, right? It's amazing. The deen is so beautiful. It doesn't need to be that difficult. So what I liken it to is like people are always chasing the shadow of college, right? They're always chasing their shadow. And the reality is when you chase your shadow, the shadow is always one step in front of you, right? So instead of chasing the shadow, what should you do? You should turn towards the light. You should turn towards the nur of Islam, find out who you are, really engage with that. And then when you turn towards the light, what does the shadow do? It obediently follows along behind you. And the colleges will come running for you because you're different than everyone else, because you stand out from that crowd. And just remember your GPA and where you went to college, those are not questions that are asked on the day of judgment. This is not what it's all about. So,
MashaAllah, Brother Hamzah. Beautiful.
sorry, I know that took forever.
No.
But inshallah, I really appreciate it. So now I'm all yours for Q&A for the people who are still.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brother Hamzah. I have learned so much from your presentation, mashallah. And I am going to force my sons to watch this recording. And I've already co-opted with the moms of my sons to do a book of what is it called? A book club on the book that you had recommended. I've already ordered it. So
Nice.
many gems
Wow.
that I hope inshallah
I knew I should have put an affiliate link in there.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Next year, inshallah. No, really, really great advice. And I think the part that I liked the most was be interesting. Just like live an interesting life. Like what an open invitation for our students here and inshallah for our parents to, you know, help our children pursue that interesting life and not just be that student who's taking 5 APs, but that there is some, you know, character to who you are. So we had a lot of questions about the books, Brother Hamzah, that came in as you were talking about reading. And, you know, this might not be the focus of your talk. And I think, however, like a few minutes of commentary on, you know, appropriateness of books and how do we find Islamically appropriate books. Dr. Frida Shama has talked about this in particular for younger grades for so many decades. Actually, we've got a reading list, recommendation book list on our website. But for older students, there tends to be a lot less out there. And actually, there's a lot being published by Muslim authors or with Muslim-facing like just marketing that is actually about like topics that are very contrary to our faith.
Right. Yeah, mashallah. So actually, yeah, the ISLA book list, I don't know if you have a link to it, but that would be a great thing to put in the chat. That's something I've shared with families because that's sort of like a vetted list. My philosophy around book reading is students should read widely. Like obviously there's certain books that make no sense for people to read. But when you're dealing with high school students, you know, we read 1984, for example, by George Orwell. Amazing book. It does have some scenes that are uncomfortable, right? And, you know, we just sort of gloss over those and focus on the best. Shakespeare has a lot of things in it that you know, are, you know, not exactly right. But I really don't. I think it's important to, you know, to read the classics, right? You know, in order to become really strong in your English and your understanding of culture and so on. But at the same time, you know, there are lots of you know, books written by Muslim authors, books that take place in the Muslim world, and so on. And you know, so at Al Noor, I've created summer reading lists, which I'm happy to share. You know, that's for 6th through 10th grade, really, because those are the grades that where we teach. And it has a mixture of novels and some nonfiction and so on. I think that is one thing to say. Like, I would encourage people to read both fiction and nonfiction. I used to read almost exclusively fiction, and over the past year or two, I've switched almost exclusively to nonfiction, and now I don't know, the pendulum needs to swing back. It's important to do you know, to do both. yeah, so those are some of my thoughts. I do think with younger kids, you do need to be, obviously more cognizant and more aware, of what they're reading. But yeah, so those are some of my thoughts
Thanks,
around
Hamza. I did place in the chat the Islamic School Librarian, another really good blog that reviews young adult books as well.
Cool. I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's really good, mashallah. I think they might have Instagram and other social media as well. Okay, so we have a question here. My daughter goes to a very small Islamic school. Her total 10th grade class is about 12 students, and then it gets even smaller as 11th and 12th grade. There's no sports or clubs at her school. She does play volleyball. Mashallah, good job, Veronica, for getting her into volleyball at the YMCA. Dual credit, but otherwise there's not a lot of like in-school opportunities for her. So what do you recommend? Like, this is a really good question. I think even for the schools that might have more robust high schools, they might not have all of the clubs and exposure. Like, what are some of the top
So
extracurriculars that
I
you would
would have
recommend?
thought, based on that description, I would think she went to Eleanor, right? Our 10th grade has 12 students. We don't have any resources. Like, it sounds very, very similar. I think it actually opens up a great opportunity because Islamic schools, they run on heart and soul, and when a kid comes along who has a lot of energy and wants to start something, the community will rally around it. Like right now we're trying to get a futsal team going at school. They don't have any money for uniforms and this and that, so the kids created a GoFundMe or a Launch Good, and the community is just rallied around, and like they exceeded their fundraising goal immediately. And that's something you get to talk about when you're applying to college. Like, you got this whole program. Like, if you go to a school that's been around for 150 years, everything's in place, there's
Mm.
bureaucracy and this and that. So take advantage of our weaknesses, and try to fill those gaps. I think there's lots and lots of opportunities there.
I
So
think, Hamza, what do you think about like Toastmasters and stuff like, these kinds of clubs where you can really find in many locations? Are there, I know about Toastmasters, which is about for public speaking.
yep,
Any
absolutely. Getting involved with things outside of school makes a lot of sense, right? The sorts of achievements that really stand out, if you are aiming for the top schools, are usually things that are, state competitions or even national competitions. So
Mm.
getting involved in those kinds of things, if you really, again, I don't think everyone needs to aim for, the US News and World Report just came out with all their top schools. If that's, it's fine to go to those schools, but don't feel like you have to. But if you want to, then you want to get involved in really high level competitions in those areas that you're passionate about. So outside of school stuff is great, like Toastmasters.
Great. I had a question asked in a direct message. What kind of passion project would you recommend for someone who's interested, for example, in architecture?
Ooh, that would be really cool. I mean, I'm a sucker for writing. Like, I think creating like a newsletter or a blog or something like that, especially with something that's very visual like that, is can be, just an incredible asset. And it's hard because at first you don't have many readers and so on. But if you're consistent with it, you build up a following. Obviously, creating a YouTube channel or something like that, where you share ideas about that, but just pretty much figure out a way to share that passion beyond yourself, right? Like, most assignments in school, you're writing just for the teacher, and that's why many kids don't really care about it. When you're writing for a wider audience, you put more effort in, you have more ihsan around it, and so on. So, you know architecture is such a cool and relatively unusual thing for kids to be interested in, that I think there's so many ways you could do, host a build your dream house competition, where gather kids at the masjid on the weekend and give them a bunch of arts and crafts supplies, and you've like created this thing where young kids are thinking architecturally. I don't know, like, there's a million different things you can do.
Hamza, I really like that point. I didn't go to an Ivy League college, but alhamdulillah, for the area that I was in, was able to secure a lot of competitive scholarships and stuff. Somebody asked here actually about scholarships for Muslims. And if you don't mind me just sharing some of my experience, and you have definitely the expertise on here. But I think one of the things I loved about my community was just what you were saying about the kind of lack of so many things that were already established allowed us as youth the opportunity to create them. So we did like a youth newsletter at the masjid, and we distributed it after Jummah, and the masjid supported us in doing that. As high schoolers, we taught in the Sunday school. So that's a leadership thing. And then what you just stated made me think, like, it's such a wonderful opportunity for a high schooler to now teach and help instill the passion and love for architecture or whatever it is in younger children. So there's so many mentorship opportunities. And so somebody here was asking about scholarships for Muslims, Hamza. And if you even want to just broaden that further, just scholarships. So both of
Right.
those.
So scholarships is a huge topic. We could do a whole nother webinar about that. I mean, I think, one thing is there are a lot of scholarship clearinghouse websites, like Unigo is one, and FastWeb, and I don't know, there's quite a few of them. Or if you just Google like merit-based scholarships and so on, scholarships, they come in different varieties, right? Like some of them are from for very specific communities, so like Arab American women, right? Like there are scholarships that, because if you think about how scholarships are created, usually it's some sort of wealthy person who has some sort of passion of their own that they want to pass on to to the next generation. Many scholarships have relatively small financial awards, like less than $1,000 if you get them, but they also tend to have relatively few people apply for them. And when I've told my students about scholarships and encouraged them and given them assignments to go and research 5 scholarships and this and that. And many of them will do the assignment because they're getting graded on it. But the number of students who actually follow through and submit the scholarships is very, very low. And all of those kids end up doing really well because those are the kids who take advantage of all the resources. So it's sort of like, grants, like I'm sure you have to write tons of grants and so on. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but if you do it, you just sort of like, you sit down, you bang it out. It takes an hour or two. You send it off, and then oftentimes you've forgotten about it. You're not even thinking about it. And then like 3 or 4 months later, you suddenly find out, hey, I got 3rd place in this, or oh, there, I won this, amount of money. And it's like, so applying for those in terms of like Muslim specific scholarships. I mean, a lot of so paying for college is obviously a huge thing. Maybe we need to do another webinar about that some other time. A continuous charity is doing really good work. It's a relatively small organization, but they're trying to give interest-free loans, essentially, using sort of a profit-sharing model on future earnings.
And I can share some of these resources too, Brother Hamza, because we have had previous webinars focused a little bit more on that funding portion, not as much, in a continuous charity to join that. But you're so right. Like, I think the biggest key to getting a scholarship is you have to apply for it. And I found that there are scholarships for everything, pretty much, like left-handed, if you're left-handed, or maybe if you are a parent here, maybe your corporation has scholarships for your for children of employees. So my father was a pharmacist and worked at CVS, so we applied for the CVS scholarship. So I didn't pursue pharmacy or anything related to CVS. I was just a child and I was into that applicant pool. So there are a lot of those.
There's free money hanging out all over the place. You just need to have the perseverance and the research skills to pursue it. And inshallah, some of these students will buck the trend and actually do it. Inshallah.
Brother Hamza, we have a few more questions. I think that they're going to keep coming in, and they're so from the heart, especially these questions I'm getting from the students. So I do want to, Brother Hamza, do you have time to go
Yeah,
for?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go until I'm Central Time Zone, so we'll go until 8:30, another 13 minutes, inshallah.
Okay.
And then we'll see what we can do. Maybe we ask Brother Hamza to come back, and he's also will be sharing out some of the links that to the other ways to connect with Brother Hamza, whether you want to
And
do
we do
one-on-one.
fairly regular webinars ourselves on lots of different subjects. So, if you downloaded
Awesome.
those essays you got on our email list, then that's good.
There you go. So I have a student here who's asking, and I really feel this, as a student that's been in public school for 9 years, either in the Middle East or the US, it's been tough moving from one school to another, and everything feels mumble jumbled. And now it feels very hard to find their way now that they're in an Islamic private school. Is there any advice that you can give?
I mean, that story alone is so much more interesting than the kid who grew up with the white picket fence and
That's true.
like, so own your story and what has it taught you? You probably have a lot more resilience. You've had to start over a whole bunch of times. You've probably unconsciously picked up a lot of skills along the way. إِنَّمَا الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, right? Verily with hardship comes ease. So you just need to really dig into that story and own it and try not to, some people are very bitter about the challenges that they faced, and trying to find optimism in the face of adversity is something that colleges really eat up, and not that that's why you should do it. You should do it because it's the right thing to do, but it's if you're able to take lemonades and lemons and turn them into lemonade, that's great. So it sounds like you have a fascinating background. Like I
That's
said,
so
you'll
true.
you'll be able to write a much more interesting essay than a lot of other people, or it'll be easier for you to. Inshallah, everyone can do it.
Yeah. Someone asked in a direct message to me about internships and like, what if they're unable to find an internship locally? Um, and how can you make sure that this is what you want to study? For instance, this student is interested in psychology or sociology. So how do they, so one question was about like finding an internship. Maybe they can't find something locally. And then the other one was about how do you identify it?
So obviously there are internships that are advertised, right? And there are again websites and things like that. There are summer programs. There are a ton in Boston area, that are competitive summer programs that you have to apply to. Some of those applications are due as early as January, so you really need to start thinking about summer way earlier than you'd think. But then a lot of the best internships, or whatever you want to call them, are serendipitous things where you talk to someone at the masjid and they happen to be a data scientist, which is exactly something you're interested in. And you say, hey, would it be possible to shadow you? Or maybe your parents are helping broker this deal. And you end up, being able to do that. So I think, like I said before, the Muslim community has just a really wide array of things, and we need to create this culture of helping kids. Most adults, if a young person comes to them and says, help me, teach me, mentor me, then they're going to bend over backwards to do it. The difficulty is getting over the fear barrier to be able to ask for that sort of thing, right? And that's where parents can step in and really encourage the kids. Those kids who have, I've had students who drive me absolutely crazy, but I'm like, that kid's going to be incredibly successful in life. I hate to say it, but like the way he's so persistent about everything and doesn't let anything ever go, he's gonna make a lot of money. He's gonna be very, there are these qualities that people have. And meanwhile, like I think I was held back a lot by my shyness, right? I used to be afraid to order pizza on the phone. My friends always make fun of me. And it honestly, it held me back in life. And I was so caught up in worrying about what other people thought about me and so on, and trying to overcome that, right? I give my students this challenge to reach out to a celebrity, and they can get extra credit by getting a retweet or something from a celebrity. And it's all about just trying to put them out of their comfort zone, make them have uncomfortable conversations, and Like one kid was desperately trying to get an interview with Bill Gates. And like I was so impressed. He like went through like there's like 7 levels of bureaucracy and he got to like the 5th one before he got rejected. Like that's really cool. That's
But
college
hey,
essay material.
yeah, that is so
Yeah.
wonderful. I love
Yeah.
that, Hamza. You
Yeah.
know, and I feel like it's maybe a little, and I'm very much an extrovert, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like the internet makes it so much easier to do things even as a shy or introverted person. Like you had mentioned, you know, creating a YouTube channel or the blog or vlog or whatever.
Mashallah. So I think that's Dr. Al-Shar, who's the head of our board, just shared some great scholarships
Oh,
and
thank you so much, Brother Abdul El-Shar, Dr. El-Shar, Jazakallah khair.
unless there's
Well,
another Dr. Al-Shar, I don't know.
yeah, we'll be sure to share this if there are links. And maybe I could reach out. Yeah.
Yeah, there all of these sorts of things and many, many more are available on these scholarship uh you know clearinghouse sites. And they're nice. You can search by, you know, you can sort of put your profile in and so on, and it will try to spit out scholarships that you're interested in, you know. So once you're committed to doing it, it's just that when people see the essay, then they're like, oh, this is why we need to really teach people how to write about themselves, and just like don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just put yourself out there, right? People are not seeking perfection, right? We're so hard on ourselves. We stay up way too late working on homework and trying to get that last 5% of goodness. Like it's okay to give yourself permission to not be totally perfect, right? And if you just do that and apply to a bunch of scholarships, things are going to start happening, inshallah.
Well, Brother Hamza, at this point, I think that we would like to close out this session. I know that there might be more questions and, you know, just ideas, concerns that people have. So stay connected. Inshallah, Brother Hamza will be in touch with you guys. We'll also reach out to you if we have other things that are relevant to college applications and students. I'd like to close with the dua of the majlis. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله khairan on behalf of the Islamic Schools League of America. And real sincere thanks to Brother Hamza for sharing his expertise and insights. This has been a gold mine, mashallah, filled with so many gems. And thank you to everybody who joined us. Really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure to virtually meet all of you, and love to continue the conversation, and inshallah join the WhatsApp group, join the mailing list, whatever you need to do. Let's stay connected, inshallah.
Okay. Take care,
Inshallah.
everybody.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum. Thank you so much, Dr. Brother Ali. May Allah reward you and give you the goodness in this life and next. Jazakumullah khairan. Ameen. And yo. Take
That's
care,
the best thing
students.
about these things, and people make dua for you at the end.
Alhamdulillah.
That doesn't happen with most college counselors. Alhamdulillah.
Take care, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.